Ready to dive deep into some really thought-provoking stuff.
Always.
Today, we're going to explore Gina Lake's Love and Surrender.
Oh, interesting choice.
It's a trilogy. This book's New Teachings from Jesus.
Okay, so like new interpretations.
Yeah, and Lake claims to receive these teachings directly from Jesus, offers a fresh perspective on some age-old concepts.
Okay, Clay.
Well, she presents it that way.
Definitely makes you curious, especially when you consider the central idea.
Which is?
There's a type of love that goes way beyond romantic or familial love. The love we're used to.
Okay, so deeper than that.
Much deeper, a universal love. It's actually the very foundation of existence.
So not just like love with a capital L,
Yeah.
but like the source of everything.
That's what the book claims.
That's a big claim.
It is. And to tap into this universal love,
Yeah.
surrender.
Surrender, like waving the white flag.
Not that kind of surrender. It's a spiritual letting go of all the things that keep us separate, limited.
So like surrendering the walls we've built around ourselves.
Exactly. The book uses this analogy. Surrender's like a boat.
Boat.
Yeah, carrying us from the shallows of our limited human experience to this vast, boundless ocean, the divine.
Okay, I kind of see it. What keeps us feeling stuck? Like waiting in the shallows.
Think about it.
Fear.
Oh yeah, fear for sure.
Fear of failing, fear of not being good enough, fear of the unknown. They can hold us back.
Absolutely. And the book digs into those common fears, the ones that make us play small. Cling to what's familiar, even if it's not truly serving us.
So which fears specifically?
It talks about things like aging, illness, poverty, even death.
Wow, heavy stuff. But we all experience those fears, right?
On some level, yeah, we do. And the book acknowledges that. These fears, they're often illusions, stories we tell ourselves to stay trapped in anxiety.
Okay, so how do we escape?
The book suggests we actually have the inner strength to face these challenges, to navigate the rough waters, so to speak.
So not about eliminating fear, but like changing how we view it.
Precisely. Fear can be a signal that we're about to step outside our comfort zone, to grow, expand into something more.
I can see that. So if fear is one thing we need to surrender, what else?
Well, the book starts with something pretty fundamental.
What's that?
The I.
Wait, so we gotta lose our individuality.
No, not like that. It's more about letting go of that constant inner monologue, those endless me, myself, and I thoughts, the ones that create a sense of separation.
So not denying who you are, but like questioning who you think you are.
Exactly. The book makes a distinction between the true self, which is this pure, boundless awareness, and the ego. That's the false self, the one built by all our thoughts and beliefs.
So the ego is like this mask, this persona based on outside stuff.
Yeah, you could say that. And this false self, as familiar as it feels, it actually blocks us from experiencing true happiness, true fulfillment, like trying to sail the ocean in a tiny rowboat, instead of this grand, majestic ship that's already within us.
Okay, now I get the boat analogy. Surrendering the I is stepping out of that rowboat and onto this magnificent ship that's already there.
Right. And this true self isn't something we need to work for, achieve. It's already there, just obscured by all the noise, the clutter of the ego.
So it's more about clearing stuff away than creating something new. That's kind of hopeful.
It is. And it leads us to another thing we got to surrender, the I want.
Hold on. We're supposed to just give up on all our desires. That doesn't sound very fun.
Not quite. It's not about becoming desireless robots. It's about understanding. Many of our desires, the ones driven by the ego, they stem from a place of fear and lack.
Okay, so like wanting that bigger house or a fancier car might not actually make us happy.
Precisely. The book argues that the ego's strategy for happiness, it's about getting more, controlling more, dominating more. But true happiness, the kind that lasts, it comes from somewhere else entirely.
Okay, I gotta ask, what is that different source?
It comes from connecting with our true selves, the part of us that's already whole and complete, overflowing with love and joy. And guess what? Surrendering those ego-driven desires, it actually helps us access that inner wellspring of happiness.
So it's not about denying ourselves pleasure or nice things, but maybe questioning why we want them.
Exactly. It's about asking, is this desire coming from a place of true need, or is it just the ego trying to fill a void?
Man, this is making me rethink a lot of my own I want thoughts. I'm starting to see how surrendering them could actually be freeing.
It is. And it brings us to another cool concept in the book, pretend knowing.
Pretend knowing. Okay, I'm listening. What's that about?
Basically, it's the idea that our minds get attached to untruths, assumptions, things we think we know, but we actually don't. Like we're
Yeah.
pretending to have all the answers, even when we're just working with incomplete information or outdated beliefs.
Oh, I do that all the time. Like assuming I know what my partner's thinking or predicting how a situation's going to play out.
We all do it. The book gives some specific examples, like thinking we know what'll make us happy, or that we can control outcomes, or even believing we know other people's thoughts and motivations.
Whoa, that's a lot. So, how do we even start surrendering this pretend knowing? It seems so ingrained.
It is. But just becoming aware of it, that's a huge first step. Just noticing those moments when we're clinging to assumptions, pretending to have the answers, they can start to loosen their grip.
I see. It's like shining a light on those hidden parts of our minds, bringing them out into the open.
Exactly. And as we become more aware, we can start questioning them, challenging them, and finally surrendering them. And when we let go of this pretend knowing, something amazing starts to happen.
Okay, now I gotta know what happens.
Well, as we surrender the false self and all its limits, the book says our true selves start to emerge, shining through the cracks, you could say.
That's beautiful. Tell me more about this true self. What's it like?
The book describes it as this peaceful, loving, joyful presence. It's already inside us. It's the part of us that's connected to something much bigger, beyond our individual egos.
So, we're tapping into like a universal source of wisdom and love.
Exactly. And this true self, it's not some distant goal. It's already here, waiting to be discovered.
So, it's uncovering, not creating.
Right. It's about stripping away those layers of conditioning, the fears, the I wants, the pretend knowing, all the stuff that hides our true nature. And as we do that, we experience a whole new level of freedom, peace, and joy.
Incredible. But how do we actually reach this true self? What does that look like?
Well, the book has some fascinating insights on that. We'll get into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back. Last time, some pretty intense concepts from Gina Lake's Love and Surrender, right?
Definitely makes you think.
Like letting go of egos, fears, even those I want thoughts, the ones that can throw us off course. Oh, and pretend knowing really got to me.
Oh, yeah, that one's a biggie.
Thinking we've got it all figured out, but really just clinging to stuff that might not even be true.
It's classic ego, isn't it?
Totally.
That part of us that needs to be in control, needs to have all the answers.
Right. The ego thrives on being certain, even if it's based on, like, shaky ground.
Exactly.
But the book says true knowledge, true wisdom comes from somewhere else completely.
Ooh, I like that.
What Lake calls the true self, or essence. It's like there's this quiet inner knowing that gets drowned out by all the ego chatter.
It's true, isn't it? It's like our true selves are whispering to us,
Mhm.
while the ego's shouting through a megaphone.
And we miss out on that subtle guidance because of it.
We do.
So how do we tune into those whispers, that deeper wisdom?
That's the question, isn't it?
The book says surrendering that pretend knowing is key,
It is.
but that can't be easy.
No, not always. Letting go of those thought patterns we've had for so long, assumptions, beliefs, it can feel like a real battle, like we're being asked to give up control.
To just embrace the unknown.
Yeah.
Which is probably why surrender is such a big theme.
Definitely.
Letting go of the need to know, to be right, to control everything.
Trusting there's a bigger wisdom at work, one we can access when we quiet the mind and open up to not knowing.
This makes me think about relationships. We talked about how egos clash,
Oh, for sure.
always wanting to be right, having the upper hand.
All the time.
That's where forgiveness comes in, doesn't it?
It does.
Lake really stresses that holding on to resentment, anger, it just keeps the cycle of pain and separation going.
It's like carrying around a heavy weight that blocks us from really connecting.
Yeah, we build walls instead of bridges.
Exactly.
So forgiveness is about choosing love over the ego's need to win. But that's not always easy, is it?
Not always. Sometimes those hurts are deep, and letting go can feel impossible.
It can.
It can be so hard. And the book gets that. It's not about saying hurtful behavior's okay or pretending everything's fine.
No, of course not.
It's about seeing that holding on to anger. It only hurts us. It keeps us stuck in the past. It blocks us from experiencing true love, true connection right now.
Right. Like we have a choice, hold on to the pain or let go and make space for healing, for growth. And the book also talks about separating our own issues from real relationship problems, right?
Yeah, it does.
So instead of blaming our partners for our unhappiness, we got to own our thoughts, our feelings.
Such a crucial point. Our partners aren't responsible for our happiness.
No.
No, that's on us. We can't expect them to fulfill every need or meet every expectation.
Which is hard to accept, isn't it? We're kind of taught that our partner should make us happy.
We are. And that's where surrendering the ego comes in. Real happiness, the lasting kind, it comes from inside, not from outside sources.
So even when relationships are tough, even when things are hard, we can choose to feel peace, contentment, instead of waiting for our partner to give it to us.
Exactly. It's a big shift in thinking. But it can totally change our relationships. By owning our own happiness, we free our partner from that impossible burden.
And we create space for something more real.
Yes, a more fulfilling connection.
This is making me rethink my own relationships. It's like a whole new way of approaching love, partnership.
It is.
But it's not all just inner work, right? The book gives some practical tips for healthy relationships, things we can actually do with our partners.
Of course. Talks about communication, being clear, compassionate, expressing our needs, our feelings in a way that's respectful, understanding.
Makes sense.
And it encourages us to focus on the good, see the things our partners do well, instead of focusing on the flaws, the shortcomings.
So shifting our focus from what's missing to what we already have. Gratitude, appreciation.
Exactly. And making an effort to connect on a deeper level, to really see our partner, understand them, beyond just the roles we project on them.
All this sounds great, but also pretty tough. How do we actually start putting these teachings into practice?
Well, it starts with awareness, being mindful of our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, especially in our relationships.
Okay, so paying attention.
Yes. Noticing when the ego is running the show, when we're trying to control or acting out of fear.
Becoming aware of those automatic patterns that lead to problems, disconnection.
Exactly. And as we see them more clearly, we can make different choices.
Respond with love instead of anger.
Yes.
Understanding instead of judgment.
Yes. Choose to forgive,
Yeah.
to let go, to trust that inner wisdom.
This makes me think of that universal love Lake describes, not just a feeling, but like the essence of life.
It is. It is.
It's like we're all linked by this thread of love, but we forget about it. We get so wrapped up in our own stuff.
That's beautifully put. And the book says the more we surrender to this love,
Yeah.
the more we feel that connection, not just in quiet moments, but in everything we do, even the mundane stuff.
So it's not about having these big mystical experiences.
Not necessarily.
It's about bringing love and connection into the ordinary, even the difficult stuff.
Exactly. It's about seeing that spark in everyone, knowing we're all woven together in this tapestry of life. And that includes our relationships.
Yeah, we talked about how egos mess things up in relationships, right?
Right.
Always wanting to be right, be in control.
It's so common.
But true love,
Yes.
it's not about finding that perfect person or changing each other.
No.
It's about accepting, forgiving, letting go.
It's about embracing the messiness, the imperfections, knowing our partners are on their own paths, just like us, and often their flaws, they mirror our own.
Whoa, that's deep. It's like we're all reflecting back to each other, showing those parts we might not see ourselves.
We are. We are. But it's not easy to see it that way, especially when we're hurt, triggered.
No, it's not.
And that's where surrender is so powerful.
How so?
Letting go of the need to be right, to control things, to get the last word. It's choosing love instead of that ego need to separate and defend.
So responding with compassion, even when it's tough, even when we don't agree with what our partner's doing.
Exactly. Remembering that behind every argument, every disagreement, there's a deeper need for love, connection, validation.
And sometimes those needs are hidden, right? Under anger, resentment.
They can be. They can be. It makes it hard to see the love underneath.
It does. But the book reminds us that love is always there,
It is.
even when it's buried under all that pain, all those old patterns.
Yes. And our job is to cultivate the awareness, the compassion, to see through it all, to connect with what truly matters.
This goes back to that pretend knowing, doesn't it?
It does.
In relationships, we assume we know what our partners are thinking, feeling, without really listening, without asking.
We do. It happens all the time. We project our own ideas onto them, creating stories that might not even be true. And that leads to misunderstandings, fights.
So surrendering pretend knowing in a relationship,
Yep.
it means being willing to ask,
Yeah.
to listen with an open mind, to set aside our assumptions, and just see our partner for who they are, not who we want them to be.
Beautifully said. It's about approaching our relationships with curiosity, humility, knowing we don't have it all figured out, that there's always more to learn about ourselves and about our partner.
This makes me think about personal responsibility, something the book really stresses.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not expecting our partner to make us happy, but taking charge of our own well-being.
That's so important.
Realizing that our happiness comes from within, not from someone else.
Of course, relationships can bring us joy,
Yeah.
fulfillment,
Oh.
but we can't depend on them to solve all our problems.
Or meet all our needs.
Right.
So it's about showing up as whole people, not looking to our partner to complete us.
Exactly. It means taking care of ourselves, physically, emotionally, spiritually, building a strong sense of self-love, self-worth.
Because the more we love ourselves, the more we can love others.
Exactly.
Man, this is really changing how I think about my relationships. It's like a whole new approach to love, to being a partner.
It is. It is. One that's built on respect, responsibility, and understanding the power of surrender. And it goes beyond just romantic relationships, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. The more we surrender, the more we cultivate love, compassion, forgiveness, the more those qualities become part of who we are. They radiate out into the world.
So it's not just about fixing relationships. It's about becoming better people, more loving, more compassionate, which in turn creates a better world.
Exactly. It's recognizing we're all connected. Our actions matter. Our choices have an impact. They influence the world around us.
And choosing love, surrendering to something bigger than ourselves. That's how we make the world more peaceful, more harmonious.
Yes. Yes, it's about bringing love, surrender into every moment, every interaction, every thought, every feeling. That's where real change happens.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've barely scratched the surface, but I'm already feeling so inspired to take these teachings and actually try them out.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? This is just the start of your journey with these ideas. Let them sink in, ask questions, see how they fit into your life. Take what works for you, leave the rest, and trust your own inner voice as you explore the depths of love and surrender.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to do the same. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep surrendering to the power of love. Welcome back to our deep dive into love and surrender. It's been pretty intense, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Unpacking all these ideas about letting go, our fears, our egos, even our desires, to find a more loving way to be.
It definitely makes you question a lot of stuff.
It does, about love, relationships, even like the nature of reality. But I love that the book gives us some practical advice, too.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's not all just theory.
Yeah.
It shows us how to actually use these ideas in our everyday lives.
Right. One thing that stuck with me was this idea of love, not just as an emotion, but like a fundamental force.
Oh, absolutely.
The very essence of life, like this invisible web connecting everything.
It is, isn't it?
But we forget about it.
We do.
Because we're so stuck in our own little bubbles.
Exactly. And the book says the more we surrender to this love, the more we can sense that connection. Not just in quiet moments, but like everywhere.
So it's not about having those big mystical experiences.
Not only that, no. It's about bringing that awareness of love, that connection, into our everyday stuff. Even when it's hard, when it's ordinary.
So even in those tough moments, we can find that connection.
We can. It's about seeing the divine spark in everyone, recognizing we're all part of something much bigger. And that includes our relationships.
Oh, right. We were talking about how egos cause problems.
They do.
Always needing to be right, be in control.
Always battling.
But the book says true love isn't about finding the perfect person
No.
or trying to change each other.
No.
It's about acceptance, forgiveness, letting go.
It's about embracing the messiness, the imperfections, knowing our partners are on their own journeys, just like we are. And, their flaws, they often show us our own.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like we're mirrors for each other.
Exactly. Reflecting back those parts we might not want to see.
It's true, but it's hard to see it that way sometimes, when we're hurt, when we're upset.
It is. It's in those moments that surrender becomes so important.
How so?
Well, it's about letting go of the need to be right, the need to control, to have the last word. It's about choosing love over the ego's need to separate, to defend itself.
So even when it's tough, we respond with compassion, even if we don't agree with what our partner's doing.
Exactly. We remember that behind every argument, every disagreement, there's a deeper need, a need for love, for connection, for feeling understood.
And sometimes that need is hidden, right? Like under anger, resentment.
It can be. It makes it hard to see the love that's there.
It does. But the book reminds us that love is always present,
It is.
even when it's buried under all those layers of hurt and old patterns.
It's our job to cultivate the awareness to see through those layers, to connect with the heart of the matter.
This reminds me of pretend knowing.
Yes.
It shows up in relationships too, doesn't it? Assuming we know what our partner's thinking or feeling, without really listening, without asking.
All the time, we project our own interpretations onto them,
Yeah.
create stories that might not even be true, and that causes misunderstandings, arguments.
So, to surrender, pretend knowing in a relationship.
Yes.
It means asking questions, listening with an open mind, setting aside our assumptions, and just seeing our partner for who they are, not who we wish they were.
Beautifully said. It's about approaching our relationships with curiosity, with humility, knowing that we don't have all the answers, that there's always more to learn about ourselves and about our partner.
This makes me think about personal responsibility, too, something the book emphasizes.
Absolutely, it's essential.
Not expecting our partner to make us happy, but taking care of our own well-being.
Owning our own happiness.
Yeah, realizing it comes from within, not from outside sources. Of course, relationships can bring joy, fulfillment,
Of course.
but we can't expect them to fix everything, to meet every single need.
No, we have to show up as whole people, not expecting our partner to complete us.
Right, and that means taking care of ourselves, physically, emotionally, spiritually, building a sense of self-love, self-worth.
Because the more we love ourselves, the more love we have to give.
This is changing how I think about relationships. It's a whole new approach to love, to partnership.
It is. It's built on respect,
Mhm.
responsibility, and a deep understanding of surrender.
And it goes beyond romantic relationships, doesn't it?
It does. The more we surrender, the more we cultivate those qualities. Love, compassion, forgiveness, they become part of who we are, and they spread out into the world.
So it's not just about fixing our relationships. It's about becoming better human beings, more loving, more compassionate, and that creates a better world.
Exactly. It's recognizing that we're all connected. Our actions have an impact. Our choices influence everything around us. And when we choose love, when we surrender to something bigger than ourselves, we help create a more peaceful, harmonious world.
That's amazing. It's like we have the power to change the world, not just through big actions, but through the little things we do every day.
Exactly. It's about bringing that awareness of love and surrender into every moment, every interaction, every thought, every feeling. That's where real transformation begins.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've only scratched the surface, but I'm feeling so inspired. I want to explore these ideas more, see how they work in my own life.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning of your journey. Take these ideas, think about them, ask questions, see how they resonate with you. Take what works, leave what doesn't. Trust your own inner wisdom as you explore the depths of love and surrender within yourself and in the world around you.
That's a great way to put it. And to our listeners, we encourage you to do the same. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep surrendering to that power of love. And until next time, may your journeys be filled with peace, joy, and a deep sense of connection.